Okay, in our video series of cardiology lectures, in this video we are going to talk about aortic stenosis. We are going to talk about its clinical presentation, the diagnosis, the management of aortic stenosis in detail. First of all, we have a case here. A 72-year-old man is brought to the clinic by the family after experiencing a syncopal episode while he was walking on the stairs. The patient tells you that, "Doctor, I experienced similar episode before, but I was getting more short of breath recently. I am experiencing more fatigue when I walk, and sometimes I also experience chest pain. I thought this is maybe due to aging, but after this syncopal episode, I have become more concerned." When you examine the patient, you listen to a crescendo decrescendo murmur in the aortic area. This is a classical presentation of aortic stenosis. Now, how do you diagnose it? How do you manage this case? Today, we are going to talk about that. Aortic stenosis is the narrowing of the aortic valve. Aortic valve is the valve that is present between the left ventricle and the aorta. Left ventricle pumps the blood through the aorta to the whole body. This valve is present between the left ventricle and aorta, and narrowing of this valve is called as aortic stenosis. Aortic valve has three cusps. Those three cusps are present like this, and when they are open, they look like this. But whenever there is stenosis of the aortic valve, the valves cannot open up completely, resulting in aortic stenosis. Therefore, narrowing of the aortic valve. Coming to the causes of aortic stenosis. The causes of aortic stenosis, aortic valve sclerosis is the most common cause, where age-related calcification of the aortic valve occurs that result in fusion of these cusps, and these cusps cannot open up properly. Therefore, it is the most common pathology. Aortic stenosis is the most common pathology in elderly population due to the calcification of the aortic valves. Some patients have bicuspid aortic valve. Bicuspid aortic valve means that these patients do not have three cusps like normal aortic valve. These patients congenitally have two cusps, and those two cusps are at increased risk of getting fused with each other, resulting in aortic stenosis. Therefore, patients who have bicuspid aortic valve are at increased risk of having aortic stenosis in life. The Turner syndrome patients have this bicuspid aortic valve, therefore the fusion of heart valve takes place, and aortic stenosis is a common complication in Turner syndrome. Other causes include rheumatic fever, which most commonly affects mitral valve, but if it affects the aortic valve, it can result in aortic stenosis. Now, whenever there is narrowing of the aortic valve, the left ventricle cannot pump the blood out of it. There will be increased pressure generated by the left ventricle. Whenever there is increased pressure generated in the left ventricle, it will result in left ventricular concentric hypertrophy, where the left ventricular wall thickens up and hypertrophy takes place. Hypertrophy carries its own risks because the walls are so thick and coronaries cannot perfuse these thick walls. Therefore, there is increased risk of arrhythmias to develop in these patients. The common presentation of aortic stenosis is with syncope, where the patient episodes sudden loss of consciousness because the brain is not receiving blood. Why the brain is not receiving blood? Because left ventricle cannot pump the blood out to aorta because there is aortic stenosis. And when the aorta does not receive blood, brain cannot receive sufficient blood. Therefore, syncope takes place. These patients can also experience angina because the coronaries arise from aorta, and when aorta is not receiving enough blood, coronaries won't receive enough blood. Therefore, angina also takes place. And these patients also experience dyspnea, shortness of breath, because the blood cannot be pumped to aorta. Therefore, there will be backing of blood from the left ventricle to the left atrium to the lungs. Therefore, lungs will be having dyspnea. A simple mnemonic that can help you remember these symptoms is SAD: syncope, angina, and dyspnea. Normal aortic valve size is 3 to 4 centimeters square, and symptoms appear whenever there is stenosis and the circumference is less than 1 centimeter square. Now, whenever you examine the pulse of these patients, what you would see is that there will be delayed distal pulse. The pulse will be initially weak and then it will be slowly rising just like a wave, because the left ventricle is pushing hard to pump blood from the left ventricle into the aorta through a stenotic valve. Therefore, that stenosis is causing a weak delayed distal pulse in these patients. That is called as pulsus parvus et tardus. These patients will have decreased pulse pressure. Pulse pressure is the difference of systolic and diastolic blood pressure. Since these patients have a decrease in the systolic pressures due to aortic stenosis, therefore the overall pulse pressure will go down. There will be a decreased pulse pressure, decreased difference between systolic and diastolic blood pressure. And when you palpate the bifurcation of carotids, you will feel a thrill present in the bifurcation because of the jet coming out through a stenotic valve. Now, when you auscultate the patient's chest, you would listen to a harsh crescendo, decrescendo, diamond shaped murmur, a slow rising pulse that goes to the maximum and then goes down. So, a harsh crescendo, decrescendo, diamond like murmur is seen in aortic stenosis. Do you remember another condition that we discussed where a crescendo, decrescendo murmur is seen? That is hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. As we discussed in our video on hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy, there is crescendo, decrescendo murmur. So you will listen to a murmur like this. The murmur radiates to the carotids and the murmur is best heard in the second right intercostal space. Now remember, this is a very important point that can help you in the diagnosis, that this murmur radiates towards the carotids. Now, in the diagnosis of aortic stenosis, the first, the foremost, and the most important investigation, like all other valvular diseases, is echocardiography. In echocardiography, you look at the heart, you do transthoracic echocardiography, and it is the gold standard investigation. Now, this is an echo of the heart, and in this echo, if you look at this area, this is the aortic area, showing three cusps that are opening. These are the three cusps, and if you focus, you could see that in this area there are three cusps that are opening properly. Now this is a normal aortic valve movement. Now in this video you can see that the valves are not opening up properly. The valves are not opening properly, and this is a video of aortic stenosis, an ultrasound that is showing you aortic stenosis. This video has been taken from the website Show Me the POCUS, which is an amazing website for these echoes. So if you do not properly understand the video, it's totally okay. For exams, you don't need to remember these echoes. Cardiologists are meant to do these echoes properly. So just you have an idea that echocardiography is the investigation where you see the aortic stenosis. Now, if in very rare cases where the aortic stenosis cannot be detected on echocardiography, cardiac catheterization is done. This is just for academic purposes, but it is not done in real life. Most of the cases are detected on echocardiography. Aortic stenosis is diagnosed with echocardiography. But if it is unconclusive, cardiac catheterization is done where they pass a catheter and they check the pressures, and if they find a big difference of the pressures, they can find. The supplementary test that you do is that on ECG you would be able to find the signs of left ventricular hypertrophy. How do you see left ventricular hypertrophy on ECG? I have explained that in detail in my ECG series. You can check out the link of those videos in the description. That is an amazing playlist where I teach ECG step by step. And I have explained the Scololion criteria to find out the left ventricular hypertrophy. And you also do the chest X-ray to see the dilation of the heart. So the main investigation is echocardiography. Now, it is important to remember that these patients of aortic stenosis present with angina as well. Now, it is very important that you do echocardiography and rule out aortic stenosis, because if there is aortic stenosis on echocardiography, you cannot do exercise stress testing. Exercise stress testing is contraindicated because these patients already have a stenotic valve, and that makes sense. That is the cause of angina. You do not need to further do exercise stress testing to investigate, because if you do exercise stress testing and they start running on the treadmill, there is a chance that they will collapse. They might get an MI because the heart cannot perfuse properly due to the aortic stenosis. Now coming to the treatment of aortic stenosis. In the treatment of aortic stenosis, remember the mainstay of treatment is surgical treatment. Surgical replacement of aortic valve is the mainstay of treatment in aortic stenosis. Medical therapy has shown no benefit in patients with aortic stenosis. The first line, the foremost treatment is surgical treatment. Aortic stenosis, if the patient is symptomatic or the patient has severe stenosis, if the patient is having symptoms, that is a clear-cut indication that patient must be referred for a surgery for the replacement of aortic valve. Aortic valve replacement should be done. If the patient is asymptomatic and patient is doing fine, if there is mild to moderate aortic stenosis, in such cases what you can do is you can wait and watch for some period of time, but you have to keep in mind that ultimately if this patient develops symptoms, you have to go for aortic valve replacement. So in these patients, you can go for conservative therapy where you wait and watch. But ultimately, all the patients of aortic stenosis, if they develop symptoms, it is a clear-cut indication that you should go for aortic valve replacement. Now, the presence of exertional symptoms is a clear-cut indication for surgery. Now, what are the procedures by which aortic valve replacement is done? These procedures include surgical aortic valve replacement and transcatheter aortic valve replacement. In surgical aortic valve replacement, open heart surgery is done where the chest is opened up and aortic valve is placed. In this picture, you can see the chest is opened up and the aortic valve is being placed. It is a preferred procedure. Surgical aortic valve replacement is better than transcatheter aortic valve replacement, and it is done in most patients where you go for aortic valve replacement. Surgical aortic valve replacement is the preferred procedure. In those patients where you cannot go for surgical aortic valve replacement and open heart surgery, in those patients you go for transcatheter aortic valve replacement. So surgical aortic valve replacement is usually done in young patients with good life expectancy, patients age less than 65 years of age, and patients have a life expectancy of greater than 20 years, and there is low to moderate surgical risk. Now, if the patient cannot undergo a surgical aortic valve replacement, in that scenario, usually transcatheter aortic valve replacement is done. Now, in transcatheter aortic valve replacement, what they do is that they pass a catheter. They do not do any open heart surgery. They pass a catheter, and on that catheter, there is a balloon, and over that balloon is the aortic valve. They get inside the aortic area, they inflate the balloon, and they put this valve over here. But the risk associated with this procedure is that there is increased chances of perivalvular leak in this transcatheter aortic valve replacement. Therefore, open heart surgery is still the preferred procedure over this transcatheter aortic valve replacement. Therefore, transcatheter aortic valve replacement is done in those patients where you cannot go for surgical aortic valve replacement, like patients age greater than 80 who cannot tolerate surgery, life expectancy less than 10 years, or high surgical risk. Another procedure that is really done in children, adolescents, and young adults where percutaneous balloon valvuloplasty is done. Since the tissue in these people is still young and there is increased chances of opening up this stenotic valve, percutaneous balloon valvuloplasty is done. What they do in percutaneous balloon valvuloplasty is that they get inside the heart through a wire, and over that wire is a balloon, and that catheter is passed and balloon is inflated in the stenotic valve, and that balloon opens up the stenotic aortic valve. This procedure is done in young people because the tissue is more elastic and there is chances of opening up of these valves. In old patients, the valves are very calcified, and percutaneous balloon valvuloplasty cannot be done in old people. Therefore, this is the procedure of young people where you inflate a balloon and open up the aortic valve. Now, let's say if you have done aortic valve replacement, you have placed a mechanical valve, this patient would need antithrombotic therapy. This patient would need to be put on anticoagulation. Why? Because a foreign body is there in the body, and that foreign body would attract aggregation of the platelets, aggregation of thrombi. Therefore, clots can develop on this foreign body, and this valve can again get stenotic. Therefore, you need to put the patient on a certain anticoagulant like warfarin so that these valves stay open and no platelets aggregate on these, no thrombi are formed on these. Warfarin 5 mg per orally daily is given, and a target INR is kept between 2 to 3, and it is given for lifelong. Remember, before starting warfarin, you have to give a heparin bridge. For the first 7 days, you give heparin like enoxaparin, low molecular weight heparin, and once you have achieved an INR of 2 to 3, then you start warfarin. And you tell the patient that they have to monitor the PT INR. You do certain counseling about the anticoagulation, because that is very important. That they have to wear a bracelet, that they are on anticoagulants, that they do not have to participate in sports where there are increased risk of getting injury. If they ever experienced a severe headache, they have to come to the hospital because there is a risk of intracranial bleed. So these are some precautions that you have to tell to a patient whenever you are starting the patient on warfarin. If the patient is on bioprosthetic valve, which is rare, a bioprosthetic valve is a valve that is formed from bovine or pigs, that would need aspirin with or without warfarin, because there are less chances of thrombotic complications over the bioprosthetic valve. But usually mechanical valves are placed. Why are we not giving DOACs, direct oral anticoagulant drugs like dabigatran, rivaroxaban? Remember, safety and efficacy of direct oral anticoagulant drugs in the patients who have mechanical valve have not been assessed, and their use is yet not recommended. Dabigatran is associated with increased thrombotic events, increased bleeding events, especially in the patients with valvulopathy. Therefore, warfarin is still the preferred agent in these patients. The complications of aortic stenosis include cardiogenic shock. If it is not treated, it would result in acute heart failure. It can also result in atrial fibrillation. Do not delay surgery in the patients with aortic stenosis. Whoever presents to you with a cardiogenic shock or rapid AFib, immediate surgery must be done in these patients. Before going to the summary, please click on the subscribe button and make sure to check out my other lectures on cardiology series, ECG lectures, my lectures on neurology, emergency medicine, and make sure to support this channel on Buy Me a Coffee. We talked about what is aortic stenosis, what are the causes of aortic stenosis, what is the pathophysiology, SAD, syncope, angina, and dyspnea, common presentation, pulsus parvus et tardus, delayed distal pulses, diamond-shaped pulse, also seen in HOCM. Echocardiography is done, which is a gold standard. If inconclusive, then cardiac catheterization is done. ECG, a supportive thing. Exercise stress testing is contraindicated in these patients. If the patient is symptomatic, immediately go for aortic valve replacement. In asymptomatic patients, you can wait and watch for some time. Surgery is the mainstay. Medicine has no role in this. Presence of exertional symptoms is an indication for surgery, and the procedure is surgical aortic valve replacement and transcatheter aortic valve replacement. Remember, surgical aortic valve replacement is the preferred procedure. Percutaneous valve valvuloplasty is also done in children. You have to put the patient on anticoagulants. DOACs are not preferred in patients with valvulopathy and the complications. Do not delay a surgery if the patient presents with cardiogenic shock or AFib. If you liked my video, please click on the subscribe button. Thank you very much.